There was a heartbeat right before the music began where Ilia Malinin simply stood there, still, silent, just breathing against the cold. February 13th, 2026, Milano Ice Arena. The Olympic men's free skate final was finally here. 10,000 fans packed the arena, with millions watching at home. He held a 5-point lead after the short program. 5 points for a skater like him. That feels comfortable, safe, almost a guarantee. But he was more than a competitor. He was the heavy favorite and 2-time reigning world champion, the only athlete ever to land a quad axel in competition. Nobody asked if he would win, they asked by how much. Nothing in that moment signaled a disaster. But here is what highlight reels never show. The Olympics do not start when the music begins. They start days earlier. In hotel rooms, during practice sessions, or in those quiet moments when your mind refuses to settle. Days before the final, Ilia admitted a truth to reporters. He said the atmosphere felt unexpectedly heavy. The attention, the noise, the thousands of eyes, it was all getting to him. That matters because dominance hides pressure. It never truly removes it. He had already won gold in the team event for the United States. That should have eased the tension. An Olympic gold at 21. Actually, sometimes early success adds more weight instead of lifting it off. By Wednesday, right before the short program, he admitted he did not even want to practice. He felt like staying in bed to avoid the building pressure. That was not weakness, it was a warning sign. But nobody notices those cracks when a champion keeps winning. He skated the short program perfectly, took the lead, and smiled. On the surface, things looked fine. But collapse rarely announces itself, which is why what happened next was so unsettling. When he took his spot for the free skate, the lights dimmed. The music started with his own voice speaking. The only true wisdom is knowing you know nothing. On most nights, that quote sounded bold. That night, it sounded different. The first jump, a quad flip, was landed but tight, stiff, not a disaster, just heavy. Then came the jump, the moment everyone waited for. The quadruple axel, 4.5 rotations in midair. The one jump nobody else in the world could land consistently. He built speed, took off, and midair, something just shut down. He later described it as a mental block, like his body refused to obey his mind. He popped it, turning it into a single axel. The atmosphere changed instantly. No cheering, just a wave of confusion. From that moment on, the rhythm was gone. A popped loop, a fall on a Lutz combination. Mistakes on moves that used to be completely automatic. You could see it on his face, not anger but pure disbelief. When the music ended, there was no celebration. He did not look at the crowd. He just bowed his head. A score of 156.33. That was 80 points below his best. That number is what everyone remembers, but numbers alone cannot explain what happened. Ilia told reporters afterward that negative thoughts flooded his mind right before he started. Old memories and high expectations had been building since he missed the 2022 Olympic team. He admitted he underestimated the moment. He thought he could treat this like any other skate. It was not. This was more than one bad performance. This was the weight of being the quad god at 17. It was about being the son of Olympians and pushing the sport to its technical limit while the world watched for a mistake. Being unbeatable sounds like a power, but it can feel incredibly lonely when you dominate the ice. Nobody prepares you for losing. They only train you to be perfect. And perfection is fragile. This did not happen in a vacuum. The press had been building this for weeks. Broadcasters had already crowned him the future of men's figure skating. Sponsors put him in campaigns before the games started. It is subtle, but it accumulates. By the time he hit the ice, he was skating to confirm a story already written. When that story cracked, it broke publicly. He walked off and went straight to the new champion, Mikhail Shidorov. He hugged him and said, "You deserve it. Grace in defeat. That doesn't trend, but it matters." The world saw a collapse. What they missed was the long build-up. And that's where this story really begins. Ilia Malinin did not just grow up around skating. He grew up inside it. His father was an Olympian. His mother was an Olympian too. That changes the entire atmosphere of a home. Having parents who have lived through Olympic pressure means learning way more than just skating technique. They know the stakes, that heavy silence before the score hits, how a 4-minute program defines a whole career. From day one, Ilia was doing more than practicing jumps. He was inheriting a standard. There is something uniquely subtle about being coached by your own mother and father. It provides support and stability, but it also means the boundary between sport and life gets thin. Dangerously thin. Dinner talk blurs into training analysis. Car rides become replay sessions. Improvement is constant. This is not about conflict or public drama. There is no visible tension, but intensity does not need drama to exist. It just needs time to accumulate, and that pressure had been building for years. Remember, he missed Beijing 2022. Too young, left off the team. That moment really stuck with him. He later admitted that missing the cut created a desperate need to prove his worth over the next 4 years. That word matters, desperate. When an athlete says that, they are revealing their internal climate. 4 years is not just preparation, it is emotional storage. And during those 4 years, he did not just improve. He exploded onto the scene. First to land a quadruple axel, 2 straight world titles, and margins so wide they looked unfair. By 2025, he was no longer just a contender. He was marketed as the absolute future of men's figure skating. That Quad God nickname followed him everywhere he went. He embraced it at first. It felt powerful and confident, but labels always harden over time. Call someone untouchable long enough, and people forget they can fall. And when they stop imagining it, the crash sounds much louder. There is something else people rarely discuss. Leading up to 2026, the media framed his individual gold medal as almost inevitable. The broadcast previews, headlines, and commentary panels. They were not asking if he could win. They were asking how historic it would be. That kind of framing feels flattering. It also narrows the room to breathe. When the outcome is assumed, your performance is just confirmation. You are not competing. You are simply fulfilling a script. Nothing about that Olympic week happened in isolation. The arena atmosphere, the massive national expectations, the cameras tracking every move, and the fact that he already had a team gold in his pocket. Team gold. That should have relieved the pressure. Instead, it might have intensified things. The team victory made one thing very clear now: it was only about him. During interviews that week, he admitted something small but very telling. He said the Olympic environment felt heavier than expected. He never thought it would hit him like that. He even skipped his final practice, not because of an injury or some technical concern. He said he just felt like staying in bed. That detail really matters. Dominant athletes do not usually skip final prep casually. They do it when they need space from something inside their head. After a strong short program and a 5-point lead, most observers assumed the turbulence had finally vanished. But pressure does not dissolve that fast. It settles, it waits, and this is where perspective truly matters. Being raised by Olympians gives you more than just knowledge. It gives you proximity to a legacy. There is immense pride in that. There is history, but there is also comparison. Silent, unspoken comparison. You are not just building your own career. You are extending a family line. That is not a burden, but it is not neutral either. By the time he hit the ice for the final, Ilia carried more than just choreography. He carried the narrative, the expectations, and the identity of someone who had never truly failed on the biggest stage. That kind of identity feels rock solid until the moment it does not. When it cracked, it did not look like arrogance collapsing. It looked like total disbelief. The common explanation is simple, he choked. That explanation fills the headlines but not the whole story. Because a choke suggests just one single moment of weakness. This felt more layered and cumulative, something that had been building quietly long before the music ever started. That is what most highlight reels never pause to examine. The free skate did not start with the first jump. It started before he even moved. Watch the footage carefully. Forget the jumps, look at his posture. February 13th, 2026. Milano Ice Arena. He stands at center ice, waiting for the music. His chin is tight. Shoulders are not loose. He is controlled, too controlled. There is a difference between focus and tension. It is subtle. The music begins with his own voice echoing across the arena. The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. It is bold, philosophical, and ironic. On any other night, it feels like pure confidence. That night, it feels like a warning. First element, quad flip. He lands it, but not cleanly. The check is hard. A tiny bit off. Most people watching wouldn't notice, but skaters feel that gap immediately. That half-inch of instability shifts the timing, the rhythm, even the breathing. Then comes the quad axel, the legendary jump. 4.5 spins in the air. A move so brutal that most champions won't even try it. He's nailed it countless times. He finds the edge, gathers speed, leaps, and then everything just stops. He later called it a total mental block. Said his body simply froze. Said negative thoughts flooded in before he started and never really left him. It matters because a mental breakdown doesn't look like a disaster from the nosebleed seats. It looks like a popped jump. Instead of 4.5 turns, it's just 1.5. Basic. The arena lets out a collective gasp. And here's the thing, almost no one explains the right way. Once your best move fails, the one you're known for, the rest of the performance is pure survival. From there, he wasn't skating for gold, he was just trying to survive. Quad loots, shaky, quad loop, popped, fall. Look at his face. That's not panic. It's something much heavier. It's the moment of realization. Realizing the whole story is finally falling apart. After that second fall, he pushes up slowly and blinks twice, clearly trying to find himself. That isn't just physical fatigue. It's total mental overload. He told reporters later that pressure and memories hit him all at once, feeling far heavier than he ever expected on this stage. These aren't just excuses, they are confessions. Olympic pressure isn't just a theory. It messes with your breathing. It spikes your heart rate. It locks your muscles and ruins fine motor control. Figure skating at this level requires surgical focus. When the final sequence comes, Quad Salchow into a triple axel. He's done it 1,000 times before, but he pops it again. Another fall, number 2. The medal is gone now. But the fall isn't the story. It's how he finishes that tells the truth. He skates those last seconds on autopilot, blank face. Arms up at the end, not for joy but for closure. Finished. Score: 156.33 in the free, 264.49 total. 8th place. That is nearly 80 points below his personal best. Numbers are hard facts, but they don't show the pain of an identity breaking in public. Because that's the truth of it. This wasn't just a technical glitch. It was an identity crisis. For years, he was the quad god, the gold standard, making the impossible look like a routine. When that quad axel failed, it wasn't just a missed point. It was the death of total certainty. Analyst Christine Brennan called it one of the biggest Olympic collapses in the history of figure skating. The main narrative is a meltdown, but meltdown simplifies things. It turns complexity into a label. It implies an explosion. What actually happened was much quieter than that. It was the weight of expectations finally crushing his capacity. There were small warnings during the team event earlier. A shaky landing, some instability largely ignored because they still won the team gold. Those signs seemed minor then. Looking back now, they feel like the beginning of the end. This wasn't about losing skill. It was about an athlete hitting a moment that finally outweighed his inner balance. This matters because one looks like decline, while the other shows a mental limit that hadn't been pushed yet. When he left the ice, he didn't snap. He didn't hide from the cameras or run away. He went straight to Mikhail Shidov, the man who just had his best skate ever, and gave him a hug. "You earned this." In that moment, we didn't see dominance or failure. We saw his real character. Character doesn't always make the front page, but it makes the story human. And human stories are rarely simple. Seconds after the scores hit the screen, the labels arrived. Shock, failure, a historic Olympic disaster. Headlines never wait for truth. They move fast. They like things easy. By midnight in Italy, clips of that failed jump were everywhere. Frame by frame, every mistake caught in slow motion. The story was set. The unbeatable favorite had crumbled. It's a clean narrative. It's high drama. It's easy to swallow, but it's incomplete. The Olympics aren't just games. They are a massive emotional amplifier. Every trip becomes a symbol. Every look is dissected. He wasn't just some athlete ending up in 8th. He was the heavy favorite, finishing 8th. That shifts the entire conversation. By the next morning, TV panels were tearing it all apart. Some felt for him, others were cold. One critic labeled it a massive Olympic shocker in skating history. But calling it an upset focuses on the scoreboard. It ignores the human element. There's a quiet void there. Ilia didn't hide from the cameras afterward. He faced them. He owned the failure. He felt crushed. He admitted he wasn't ready for the massive mental toll of the Olympic stage. No shifting blame. He nearly mentioned the ice quality during a talk, but stopped cold and fixed his words instantly. He said, "Everyone skates on that same ice. That choice matters." It proves composure while the whole world watches. It reveals deep awareness. He understood how weak a deflection would sound to everyone. As the medals were handed out, the feed cut from Shaderov's joy to Malinin sitting alone. The contrast was brutal. But one detail got buried in the noise. He already secured Olympic gold days earlier in the team event. That win counts. Yet socially, individual gold hits differently. Team victories share the spotlight. Solo gold creates a legend, a true legacy. That is why finishing 8th felt like such a blow. Fans expected a straight line of pure dominance. Instead, the armor cracked. And cracks in a rising star's career spark doubt. Is he still the chosen one? Will this haunt him? Was the pressure too much? These questions are valid, but they ignore the hidden journey behind the scenes. 4 years earlier, he missed the Olympic squad entirely. He just wasn't ready back then. From 2022 to 2026, he evolved. He became technically unstoppable and mentally bulletproof in every single arena. By 2023, the undefeated run became a myth. And myths are incredibly fragile. When myths shatter, opinions shift instantly. But breaking a legend is not the same as breaking the athlete. The main story from that night is easy. Pressure crushed him. That explains a part of it, but not the whole truth. Pressure never acts alone. It targets your identity. If your brand is built on being invincible, human flaws feel catastrophic. He isn't weak. It just raises the stakes. Nothing that week happened in a bubble. The arena was crawling with global media outlets. The local press turned him into the face of the games. US networks called him the guaranteed winner before he even stepped out. Even the schedule played a role. He was the final performer, the very last skater. The closer, dim lights, total silence, the whole world's expectations resting on his back. That position turns up the heat. It is far harder than going mid-set. You carry the energy of every skater before you. These details don't excuse the mistakes. They magnify them. Wider context shifts the story. Instead of asking how he could possibly fail, a better question is, how many tons of pressure were piled onto that single moment? After the closing ceremony, focus turned to 2030. 4 years away, at the next Olympics, he will be 25. Plenty of time left. But time won't kill the memory. Competitors relive those mistakes in private for years, and here is a quiet detail. The games finished. He didn't hide. He stepped out for the gala exhibition and performed with raw, artistic fire. No gold at stake, only art. That skate didn't go viral like his crashes did, but it proved he was still there. Fans remember the crash, but failure isn't the whole story. It's a chapter, and chapters feel massive when they disrupt perfection. The real question isn't if he can land that quad axel again. We know he can. The question is, if he can return to the world stage with a memory that painful. That doubt lasts longer than any judge's inches score. The simplest narrative is this. He choked. That is the easy headline, the fast take, the comfortable way to see it. But that misses everything. It ignores 4 long years of intense, grueling work. It ignores the weight of being called the quad god. It ignores how being labeled invincible shrinks your space to just be human. Ilia Malinin didn't suddenly forget his craft on February 13, 2026. He faced a spotlight that blew up every insecurity, and doubt under the Olympic glow feels much heavier than gravity. That 8th place result is etched in history forever. That part is fixed. What isn't fixed is the meaning we find in it. A fall can reveal the pressure that wins used to hide. Sometimes a broken story defines a champion more than a perfect one. That night in Milan wasn't only about a lost medal. It was about a young king finally finding the edge of certainty. What he does next matters more than what already happened.